Hello there. Hello there, and greetings. My name is Ivana Dubitska, and I'm joining you today from Edinburgh in Scotland. Now, I normally live in Barcelona. I've been working and living in Barcelona, Spain for about 30 years now. But this year, for all my sins, I'm working, not on holiday, a working holiday. Here I am. And I'd like to know, just in the chat box, where are you and what are you doing? Are you on holiday? Have you gone back to work yet, or just about to go to work yet? We're talking here about the future. So here there's also a reflection a little bit about the past, our holidays, how our last academic year went, what we learned, maybe lessons learned, and looking forward now to the future, new beginnings, changes, maybe a change of scenery, maybe a new job for you. So today then we're looking at business partner, but before I do, a little reflection on my working holiday. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel that the summer is an opportunity for reflection, especially when we go out. We look at the landscape, the beautiful scenery that you can see here, Holyrood Park. This is Edinburgh, taken in recent weeks. I'm working here at the university on the pre-sessional. I teach both a mix of in-company classes back in Barcelona, but also university classes. So a little bit of both. I like the mix of having different teaching settings. I also teach one-to-ones. So you probably might be teaching in a similar situation. Feel free in the chat just to say, if you're like me, that you're kind of a hybrid teacher, sometimes face-to-face or teaching university groups, or maybe just small in business, in company groups. I'll give you an opportunity there to look in the chat, to write in the chat. Now, you're probably wondering what these places are, and you might have already guessed that this is Arthur's Seat, this mountain that we can see here. And I'm very lucky. I consider myself lucky as a teacher because I've had a great group teaching this summer. I've managed to stay just about in work during the pandemic. So, touch wood, that still continues for all of us. But also here you can see this beautiful setting, and the accommodation on campus is here with the view of Arthur's Seat and the park with the lochs and the lakes. And not far from Edinburgh, you can go to see the sea and go to places like North Berwick. You can see the castle there, Tantallon Castle near North Berwick, which I think was used in the Game of Thrones, but correct me if I'm wrong. And here I am climbing with some friends up on Arthur's Seat. So despite sitting down all the time, working online and teaching, have managed to get out for some walks. And you may recognize also this street here, over here, if you're a keen fan of Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling. Of course, you will know, I'm sure you all know, that she wrote the books here in a little cafe in Edinburgh. And a lot of her inspiration was taken from Scotland and Edinburgh and Diagon Valley. Diagon Street Alley was actually filmed here, and this is not called Diagon Alley in real life. It's called Victoria Street. And you can see beautiful cobbled streets and little cafes and the houses. So very picturesque. So why am I talking about this? Well, I'm saying on my working holiday, it's an opportunity for reflection, exchanging ideas like you've been doing on the conference, in the conference, exchanging ideas with colleagues who we haven't been able to see or kind of touch and feel, see face to face for a long time. So that was also good, being connected again. And I hope you will be too for next year, and whether it's offline or online. So thinking about this, thinking about how lucky I have been to maybe have a job in the summer, looking forward to some work next year. What about our students and their employability skills? Now, my students at the moment are studying for Masters of Science, but I've also teach different kinds of students back in Barcelona. I have a lovely woman who is a lawyer, who has worked for a bank for many, many years, but isn't currently unemployed. So she's been working very hard on her employability skills, and with her, we've been looking at different kind of skills that will be useful for her apart from English. Things talking about, for example, her career and personal development, talking about the networking skills, practicing those, and other skills as well that I hope will stand her in good stead for the future. And I also have other students at university who are tourism students. And unfortunately, with the pandemic and the crisis, we all know that the tourism sector has gone down. And a lot of my students there who have finished and graduated this summer have had to kind of think a bit more outside the box and think about what they could do with those language skills and skills learned on the course, and maybe go into other sectors of work. And when I'm teaching my students, whether they're at university or in company, then these employability skills, communicative skills, networking, being able to present, for example, and being able to give and receive feedback in small meetings with your employer, all of these skills I find extremely useful. I would like, if you haven't already, please write in chat what will make you employable, do you think, in the future out of those skills I might have mentioned? Is it negotiation skills to negotiate a better deal with your next employer? Is it your communication skills? Is it being able to, is it kind of more sort of hard skills and IT skills, being able to adapt to new situations, new contexts in the teaching sector? So that brings me now to the aims here. We're going to define employability. We're going to discuss employability and transferable skills, those skills that you can transfer, like my student Vicky, to another sector. For example, Vicky has been working in banking, but she has a variety of skills that she could use in a different kind of sector because she's trained as a lawyer. And we'll also look at some communicative tasks from the series Business Partner that I've been involved in, and see how we can maybe help develop learners' employability. Maybe not all of the skills, but some specific skills that you think will be useful for them in your teaching setting. And at the end, I hope we have time. Again, apologies for the slightly late start, but I have been teaching this morning. We were going to be face-to-face, but lo and behold, somebody in the class has been with somebody in contact with COVID. So we're just being safe. And we went back online this morning, but I've been teaching all week. And it's great to have the opportunity to speak to you today now. But I hope then at the end of this session, the last session of this conference, we'll be able to reflect a little bit on the goals and the tasks for your learners, and also about our own teaching as well. Okay. So that was a little introduction about me, a little about the aims, but what about what's happening in the world? Well, obviously I've mentioned the pandemic. I'm sure it's come up in the sessions this week. I've talked about training, personal development, keeping up to date, technology, and lots of other things have been affecting us. We have seen during the last few weeks high temperatures, not just in places like Spain and Greece and Italy, forest fires, but in other parts of Central and Eastern Europe, as you well know. One of the teachers here came from Bulgaria, and she was telling me how the temperatures were very high there at 37, 38 degrees, for example. I don't know if some of you are from Bulgaria or Poland or the Ukraine. And of course, technology is changing maybe. Will we be replaced by robots? Who knows? The world is growing, population is growing. I've mentioned climate change, which is a problem very close to our hearts, affected and vexed all of us. Population growth and the elderly population as well. How are we going to cope with all these issues? And especially when I think about young people, some of my students in their 20s, what kind of future lies ahead? So worrying times, but also very interesting times to see how we can adapt and cope with these trends. As I mentioned, technology, robotics, artificial intelligence, global population growth, also the increase of huge mega cities. Before we had big cities, like London seemed like a big city, Istanbul seemed like a huge city, but now we have mega cities throughout the world. How will that affect the way we work, the way we live, the way we teach? So what is certain about the future? I think it is uncertain. I'm sure that topic has come up as well in the last few days on the conference. So going back then to employability skills, how does this all fit in and how does it affect us as language teachers, English language teachers? Our schools really developing real employability skills? Are our universities preparing our students for the real world of work? And also our companies and organizations preparing their staff and employees for these constant changes? Employees always say that they need flexible staff. How flexible? Yeah, we can adapt to timetable, we can adapt to remote teaching, we can adapt to maybe being more inclusive in our classes. Other ways, how can we adapt ourselves? But the skills I'll focus on today are really here in the top line, and this was from research done by Pearson in collaboration with Oxford University. And they came up with these various skills. Some below are the kind of skills like creativity, numeracy, digital skills. But here I think as English language teachers, the ones at the top might interest us most: problem solving, communication skills, the idea of self-management. How good are our students at managing their time and their day-to-day responsibilities, as we seem to have more and more responsibilities? How can we cope with prioritizing? And teamwork, of course. So we are at the same time at home, alone, if you like, working remotely often, sometimes in class, sometimes not, face-to-face. Teamwork, how can we collaborate with our students and learners in this context, and also with teams? Increasingly, we're in touch with teachers from other parts of the country, other parts of the world. So lots of questions, really, but questions are good. And I think questions sometimes more interesting than the answers. Helps us to reflect. Collaboration, I'd like to highlight, was one of the key communicative skills, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, whether you're teaching in company, in a small classroom with employees from different departments, whether they're from finance or marketing or legal or admin or production, getting them to work together. It's great in an English language classroom, and often my students online welcomed the chance to be in a classroom. It wasn't a work meeting, but meeting other people, students from different walks of life or people from other departments in the company. And we can say collaboration divides the task and multiplies the success. At the moment, I've asked my students, for example, here, we're doing a collaborative project. They're going to present a poster presentation next week, either online or face-to-face. And we talked a little bit also about some of the challenges of working in groups, how you might have, for example, a dominator. We'll watch a video later where we see a situation with somebody dominating a meeting. And those are the challenges to work with when you're in a meeting as well. It's not all rosy. And of course, you might have people who don't pull their weight, who don't work in a team. And how do you try to distribute the work responsibilities there? So I just wanted to highlight how people talk a lot about collaboration, but there are obviously some challenges involved, and we do have to be aware as teachers how we might manage the classroom or facilitate this kind of group work and project work. Do you assign team leaders, for example? How much kind of control do you want? Do you want to leave them to it and just facilitate, or do you need to sometimes step in and help them work, whether they're doing a task, simple group task online? So I've also, I think, been learning quite a bit about that on the course as well. How much am I facilitating, kind of intervening, or stepping back, observing and giving feedback, and the way I give feedback about this kind of collaboration. And so just to highlight the importance of collaboration, there's a great quote here from Dr. Ken Beattie, whose online presentations I found extremely useful earlier on this year, whilst I was kind of teaching and learning how to teach online. But this is a great quote from him. So the more able students may resist collaboration because they think they can do it better themselves on their own. But we need to remind them sometimes that the one who teaches learns twice, which I think is a great reflection when it comes to, for example, having mixed ability classes that I'm sure you have, and I have as well. We all have them at some point, don't we? How do you get the weaker students to collaborate a little bit more? How do you get the stronger students to maybe help out or to teach and teach others. So the idea of transferable skills. Now in Pearson's research, you'll find the references at the end of this presentation. If you're interested, I'm very happy to send a PDF to you at the end. And in those references there are links to this research on Pearson's website. And they were looking at these personal and social capabilities. So we have even more terms, more words to talk about these employability skills. So you might have heard of soft skills, people talking about 21st century skills, transferable skills. And with the Pearson research, they classified them as personal and social capabilities. And really, it's this idea that these are the things that make us human. It's precisely things that make us human that will make us more employable. A computer, artificial intelligence can do many things, but there's still quite a few things that they can't do and that are particular to us as people, real human beings. Now, this quote is from Stephen Kosslyn, who was a former dean at Harvard University in social sciences, actually. And if I can just point out here how he was saying how our ability to manage and utilize emotion and take into account the effects of context are key ingredients of these key ingredients, and includes critical thinking, creative problem solving, effective communication, adaptive learning. I notice how I've stressed the adaptive. Employers talk about being more flexible, being able to adapt. Those teachers who survive are not necessarily the younger teachers or the older teachers. It's those teachers who are more flexible. I think you'll find. And if you disagree with me, you can also write in chat or ask a question at the end. And good judgment. Now that's easier said than done. We won't focus on judgment today. That's not the scope of my presentation, but we'll certainly look at some of these other communication skills. Moving on there, I said we would define employability. So we've had some synonyms: transferable skills, 21st century skills, personal, social capabilities. Now to yourselves, I wonder if you can actually guess what the missing words are here. I think there's quite a lot of people online in a normal situation. I would ask you to just say online, but let's see if we can guess the missing words. It's a nice activity you can do with your students with other short texts as well. So what kind of skills are they? Well, they're a set of, you probably guessed right, the word beginning with B. They're basic or generic skills as well as attitudinal. And here, what's the adjective missing here? I wonder if you can guess. All people there writing online, that's good to see. I'll check those answers at the end just to make sure you've been paying attention. So behavioral characteristics, yes, and they are believed to be, very good word here, another synonym for important or crucial, essential. That's right. I've been telling my students to use that word in their essays. Essential for individuals to what? To something, and sustain, to gain. Well, here we have secure and then sustain employment. And that's key, isn't it? One thing is to get a job. Another thing is to actually be able to keep it, or to be able to move from one gig to another. And this, it also affects our students as well. More and more we're seeing ourselves and students not having a job for life, not even maybe for 5 or 6 years, but moving maybe every academic year, or even if you're self-employed like me, term to term, semester to semester, moving from gig to gig. So sustaining that employment and progressing in the workplace. Okay. So there we have a definition, quite a long definition from the UK Commission for Employment and Skills. They were studying their employability skills, not recently, but back in 2010. So this is not a new concept. I'd also like to point out, this is ideas have been around for a while. We've maybe been calling the skills different things like soft skills, but that's fine. So we've mentioned already some of those key skills. Can you guess then the personal and social capabilities that Pearson's research, in line with Oxford University, came up with? No surprises here. I think we all know what the first ones are already from the thinking, critical thinking. That's right. Yeah. If you'd like, please, put your answers there in the chat. It's good to see people are listening. It's good to see people have the same ideas, and keep it interactive. And creativity, that's right. So my students, for example, now are doing a project, a kind of mini project with a poster presentation, and I've asked them to be creative about that. Yes, they have to present some findings, they have to interview people about how they're going to present it. Well, what kind of visuals are they going to use? Graphs, charts, photos, extra supplementary materials. And also, creativity is not just about sort of being artistic, is it? Creativity can be being original and thinking outside the box. It's become a bit of a pat expression that now, but you can also encourage your business students, I think, to be creative when it comes to problem solving. Yeah. And that's a skill that employers really value. Yeah. And we're teaching also the university students and our students in schools to be able to use the skill, but in a different context, in a different situation. Yeah. And of course, communication there, collaboration, we've mentioned self-management, social responsibility. We were talking earlier, I mentioned the idea of climate change. It's not just up to the governments, is it now? And also organizations worldwide and ourselves and on individual responsibility. And related, I think, to project work, to collaboration, to working in company, this idea of leadership, not just sort of top leaders in management, but being a good sort of team leader. Groups at the moment working, my team, they're in teams, you know, you can tell maybe who's like the effective leader, who's good at getting on with different people, who's good at listening and giving feedback and motivating the others. And those are interesting observations to make as well online. I think when your students are working together in groups, yeah, mix when you're choosing who goes with who in the Zoom call or in the Teams call. So question for you guys is which of these are most relevant for your learners? Now I've talked about university context. I've also talked about an in-company context or one-to-one. So have a think about that. Out of those personal social capability skills, maybe you don't think it's our responsibility to practice creativity or to practice time management in the classroom. Or maybe you think it will be useful. So just to summarize there, going back to the research, you'll find more information at Pearson at the Future Skills Pearson website. And bear with me now because we're going to look now a little bit more detailed materials and some videos illustrating and demonstrating some of these skills. All right. Okay. So we talked just to move on a little bit there. Those were the other skills, occupational competencies related to very specific jobs. You might be a teacher doing ESP, teaching airline pilots or teaching nurses or doctors or professional English. But these are the skills that I'd like to focus on today, the ones we've just mentioned. Yeah, those kind of key 6. In fact, they should be 7. I think critical thinking, creativity should be on separate lines. Sorry about that. It was just the way it was presented on Pearson's website, but in fact, there are 7 key skills there. And the other skills that I think are very useful, I mentioned my unemployed lawyer student, Vicky, in Barcelona, but also my university students who are finishing a degree and maybe they need to look in a different sector. This idea of career knowledge and transition skills, I think, is becoming increasingly more and more significant in our classrooms. If you agree, just you can write a little comment there in chat, or if you disagree. And so I found that before in the past, I might have somebody who knew they were going for a job interview and okay, let's role play like the interview, some questions, fine. And then maybe somebody wanted, you know, in a one-to-one class or even in a small group, oh, you know, can you check my cover letter? And then I thought, oh, this is quite useful. And you start writing cover letters, maybe with the university classes, but now I've found also with the in-company students, the idea of selling yourself in interviews. Okay, before we practice as business teachers, presentation skills, but more and more it's often about persuading people of your idea, persuading people of your skills, persuading people that yours is the best project. So this idea of kind of personal branding, being persuasive, being able to sell yourself has come up increasingly as well, I think, in business English classes, showcase skills as well. So these skills are not necessarily kind of separate. I think they should actually be integrated in many teaching settings. And another interesting point here from the research, if I can just point out this idea of individuals from higher socioeconomic backgrounds tend to be taught these kind of career knowledge or transition skills by parents or by other adults in their lives. Yeah? Whereas individuals from lower socioeconomic backgrounds tend to be at a disadvantage here because maybe they have parents or guardians or carers who haven't gone to university, who have got different kinds of jobs, not sort of professional jobs. And so those students actually do need to hone those skills, and they do need more coaching in those skills and more practice. I don't know if you've come across that as well whilst teaching. That's an interesting point for discussion. So teaching those skills matters. Which ones? Well, we've already mentioned them already, if you've been listening. I know it's lunchtime here. I hope you've already had lunch where you are in Central Eastern Europe, whether it's in Ukraine or Poland, but which ones then can develop these skills? Now, some ideas. Well, you've got those skills. What kind of tasks? What kind of tasks do you use then? I mentioned a simple thing like role-playing an interview, yeah, or networking skills for practicing their communication skills. Now get into groups, you give them roles. Before they used to get up and wander around the class, probably can't do that now. So they might go into one breakout room and then change and go to another breakout room. Yeah. What else? Well, pitching and persuading people. So these are kind of those important presentation skills, which you could say is like a hard sort of business skill, but also this does involve being communicative, and those personal social capability skills that we were talking about before. Personal awareness, collaborative writing, working in teams is not just about sitting around a table having a meeting, is it? It's often with writing as well. When you write something now for an organization, sometimes it goes directly to the client, but often if it's a report, if it's a proposal, if it's a formal letter, that often gets seen by other people. And so this idea, I'm working on the one document, I think that's very relevant for our students as well, even if they're just short texts. And receiving feedback. So as a teacher, we've been looking at giving written feedback, for example, to our students, our learners this summer. And that has made me reflect a little bit about when I give feedback, is that very useful? Is it more direct? Is it indirect? What about feedback for speaking? In companies, students obviously really appreciate me writing up their errors, for example, or some useful vocabulary at the end of the lesson. And I think a lot of our learners are expecting that now. And they can do so now in a group situation with chat. Chat's brilliant for that, isn't it? Because you can have all that feedback and all those little notes together in chat, or even create a whiteboard maybe together in class and get the students to write it up. So I think there's, well, I think feedback is probably, there's room for another talk another day for that. So moving on, we were talking about then transferable skills, and I would like to show you a couple of videos then. One is from the B1 level of the coursebook, Business Partner. It's an eight-part series, so there are 8 books, and there's, for example, B1, B1 plus, but at lower levels, A2, A2 plus. So you can see each of those Common European Framework kind of benchmarks have been divided. So we do have this B1, B1 plus. That's why there's 8 levels. And I also would like to show you in a moment a video about handling difficult communicators. We were talking about difficulty of working in teams and collaborating. So I think I've selected just these 2. I'd like to show you more, but I don't have time today. So I've selected these 2 videos because one looks at transferable skills and those kind of career knowledge skills, and the other one looks at different employability skills there when it comes to working with people. All right, so those are the 2 videos we'll look at. First of all, B1, this is from the B1 level. And this is actually taken from Unit 1. It's called Career Choices. And the units here start always with a quote. This quote is from a careers advisor. And in a moment, we will hopefully listen to Ashley Hayward, talking about the skills that you need. So just if I can quickly highlight the sort of overview of a unit in Business Partner, just so that you're familiar with it. Maybe you already are, but then each unit in Business Partner is divided into 5 lessons. Okay, so that's 5. You've got a video lesson with skills work and lots of vocabulary work then, lesson 1. In lesson 2, it's more of a language lesson with work with a reading text or a listening text, and learners then work on their grammar skills, language skills. Then there's a communication skills, which is, if you like, these transferable skills. In this case, for this unit, it's building rapport, building relationships. And then there's another skills unit, but it's different, which is, this tends to be the sort of harder business skills. So here it's networking, but in other units, it might be something like meetings or negotiations, yeah, or talking about figures in presentations, this kind of thing. And the 5th lesson in each unit ends with writing. So there's always a short lesson there, 1 page on writing here, emails introducing yourself. So that's the kind of overview of each lesson, of each unit. There are also 8 units in each book. So that's 8 levels in the series, and also 8 units in each book. And this is the video we'll watch. And there's a question for you is quite simply, what skills and personal qualities do the speakers talk about? So we'll hear from different experts. These are native speakers. And if you can listen there and just maybe jot down in chat some ideas, or on a piece of paper if you prefer, the skills that they mention. And this would be an introductory sort of general comprehension question for our students before moving on to doing more specific listening and lots of vocabulary work. So now I'm going to share my screen, and you'll get to see a little bit of the online version of Okie dokie. Just one moment. Right, sorry, find my, just bear with me, because I just need to find my video here. There we go, sorry about that. Here we go. Too many screens, too many windows. Here, so this is actually from the Pearson website. It's the online tool. It's a great tool. I've gone into here then, career choices, unit 1, first lesson 1.1, transferable skills. There's been some lead-in exercises, and here you'll see it says exercise 3 at the top, and we're going to watch part of this video. You'll see also there's a menu here for page view, for example, and for the lesson flow here at the bottom, where I can also navigate the menu here at the bottom. So that works quite nicely there. Okay, now I'll just go back there. Right, too much clicking around. So with this video, remember, you're just listening out for those skills. I will put the captions on in case you have any problems, all right? And we're just going to watch about 1 minute. So I'm going to move the cursor along there a little.
I would look at, can this candidate fit into the team well? Do they work well with people? Are they passionate about the topic? Do they think outside of the box?
Employers value team working skills very highly indeed. So if you're studying, it's really important you try and get some experience. Now, obviously an internship's an ideal way to do this, but you can also do it through part-time jobs, through vacation work, through voluntary work, or helping with societies and clubs while you're at university.
Your experience at school is really, really important. So if you played in a team, guess what? You're a team player. You set goals you can achieve.
21st century careers involve a lot of movement, not just between jobs, but also between industries and countries. It's no good if your skill set locks you into one industry or even into one company. And this is where flexibility is important.
Be prepared to develop attributes that are transferable across sectors so you can make the best moves for your career. I'm talking about things like critical thinking, which means analysing information very carefully, communication skills, problem solving, being able to influence people. Make sure you work on your communication skills in person, on paper, face-to-face, in small groups, in large groups. You'll need to do this wherever you work, whatever job it is, across all sectors. Communication skills are absolutely key.
So Could you write now in chat then some of those skills that were mentioned? Give you just a moment there. Now, you've probably came up with skills like flexibility that was mentioned by the presenter. And then Ashley Hayward, the careers advisor, also mentioned the skills we've been talking about already. Communication skills, problem solving skills there, also critical thinking, that's right. And also influencing people, this idea of persuading people, whether it's in a meeting or whether it's in a presentation or conference. So then after that, as I said, there would be more sort of detailed comprehension about the listening and a lot of vocabulary work as well, ending up with a little sort of, well, a communicative task and also a mini project, which you have at the end of each lesson one in each unit. So that would be an example of really creating awareness of this kind of vocabulary and the words that our students need to be able to talk about it and then define it. What is critical thinking? What's meant by that? You know, being able to sort of analyze things, being analytical, or does it involve being also critical of things and not accepting everything that you hear or you read? What's critical thinking? When, you know, we talk about it a lot maybe with the university students, but I think it's also very relevant to the business English students as well. You know, when especially when they're looking at texts and reports and information they've received, analyzing data, etc. Now, let's move on to another activity then. So I mentioned this idea of vocabulary, and if you then move on to the next exercise online here in the book, you will see then we practice those useful expressions to think outside the box, but other expressions that were mentioned in the video as well, like to set goals, to have a can-do attitude, and simple matching exercise here. But then lots of opportunities online to work with the same collocations, and to work with these expressions online in different exercise types as well, and then move on obviously to getting them speaking and talking about it. What else? So we've talked then about some of these skills already, and what I'd like to kind of point out here is the idea of really why we're doing this in an English language classroom. Well, to kind of create genuine aspects of the workplace. So, you know, why have a meeting simulation in the classroom? Well, because it reflects what they are doing in real life. You know, why give a presentation in class? Well, because they need to be able to persuade people. Maybe they're not going to a conference to present, but maybe they are listening to people online. Maybe they need to be better at dealing with questions, for example, at the end of the meeting. So I think the why they are doing something in class is very important. One of the students yesterday said to me, Ivana, why are we doing this collaborative, you know, project poster presentation? You know, just because the management have decided? Well, no, the reasons maybe a threefold, apart from working together collaboratively, learning how to do a poster presentation because it will be useful for you in your career, maybe for networking in the near future. There are also other benefits. So it's always useful. I love it when the student asks me, why are we doing this? Because it also makes me think, well, I haven't made the objectives or aims clear. So that's also very important at the beginning of the class. You know, why are we doing this? Well, to create the genuine aspect of the workplace, so you have practice in a non-threatening situation with people you know. So it's much easier when it comes to doing it in the real world and in real life. I hope that makes sense. And also to illustrate to our students skills, language skills, important key skills, encouraging noticing. Oh, we heard, think outside the box. Oh, and I also said that at the beginning of my talk, didn't I? And then we see it written down. So you've probably already seen or heard that expression 3 times before we saw it maybe on the written page, and we noticed it. Yeah. Also the idea of problem solving, influencing people. What's a synonym for that? Oh, persuading people. Oh yeah, I'm starting to notice these kind of little things that will help me with my language, develop my language learning. I'm using problem-based learning and project. Yeah. We don't have to be Albert Einstein to be good at problem solving, and we can do it in very simple everyday activities. Yeah. Oh, we're going to have, for example, a celebration. an office work party? How can we do this that is kind of COVID safe? People can be creative about that and have a problem solving simulation or meeting about that. And of course, some projects as well, even mini projects. Like I said before, there are these little mini projects at the end of lesson 1 in each unit. And those projects are great because you might think, oh, I don't have time, I'm a busy teacher, I've got this to do, you know, lots of marking to do, traveling, maybe going online, then to a face-to-face class. But with projects, the beauty of them is that you can adapt them. So you can use them maybe over a couple of lessons if you would like to do that. You can set part of the project as assignments and homework. So it's not the typical homework where they just do mechanical exercises, but they're preparing beforehand. And of course, and also, or you can just do it as maybe a 40-minute activity in class in order to have a lesson which is more skills-based rather than language-based. Okay, what else? And providing support, of course, and scaffolding and strategy as language teachers, because that, of course, is what we do. Moving on to another level here. So we looked at B1, we looked at one video, which is quite an authentic video, although it has a scripted presenter. There are native speakers there speaking. Those are the kind of videos you will see in lessons 1, yeah, throughout all these levels in business partner. But the other kind of video you'll see is in the communication skills video. Remember, this is lesson 3, okay, where we have practice with these communication skills, these transferable skills. And the next video I'd like to show you is from the B2 level. And remember, we have B2, B2 plus, only there's a C1 level, not a C1 plus, it stops at C1. But in business partner B2, we look at this lesson 3, and we're talking about difficult, challenging communication styles and difficult communicators. What does that mean? Who or what is a difficult communicator? Maybe you can think of somebody you work with, that when you have meetings, maybe they're always joking, the one who is always joking in the meeting, and they might be difficult for that reason because you want to be more serious. Or it might be the person who likes to analyze all the detail, which is useful, very useful, but that person does go on and on and on, and you want them just kind of to give you an overview and not to give so much detail in the meeting. Or in the classroom, those non-responders. Now working, for example, this summer with Asian Chinese students, it's quite interesting to see how some are very communicative, but there are quite a few non-responders because they're more comfortable with silence, or they don't want to lose face, yeah, or they really don't know, or they just don't feel very confident about their language level. Maybe in the classroom. But these are kind of people that we also work with. The technology users, the typical user who's always there, you know, checking their messages on the phone. Oh, I've got a really important phone call. I just got to, you know, leave the class and come back. But this one actually looks at the dominator in this video. So we can have a little bit of fun here, talking about the styles, the communication styles. Who do they identify with? Okay, of course, these are generalizations. Maybe they find one more annoying than the other. And just before I show you this kind of short, sort of 1-2 minute video, we have a snippet here for some background. Now, I must tell you, there's not just one video, okay? I'll let you in on to a secret. There are 4 videos. There are 4 videos in these lessons, in lessons 3. Why? Well, because you need a video that sets the scene, a little bit of background, so we know what's happening, who the characters are. It's not there is a storyline, but it's not necessarily to do the lessons in order. So we need maybe a little bit of background to set up the scene. And then there's another video, which is option A, of a particular situation. And then option B, which is the same situation with the same actors. It starts off in the same way, but then there's a slight difference in their approach and in their communicative style. They do something differently. Now, in these option A and option B videos, you might already be familiar with the course books, but we see here not necessarily something that's right or wrong, but a person maybe presenting in a different way, or having the meeting in a different way, or giving feedback in using a different approach. Yeah, it could be direct or indirect, for example. And in this case, if you have a look there at the dialogue, who's this guy here? this is the dominator. Okay, I'll let you know that. And he's called Gary Roach. And Sanjit is, if you like, the team leader, and he's kind of in charge of the call here. And we see him having a little conversation with Pavel, who's Polish actually, in the video. And Pavel says, oh, good. And Sanjit says, yes, I have a meeting with Gary Roach later. And if you've been reading the dialogue, you can see Pavel then says, oh, no, not him. Oh, gosh, he's a nightmare. We all know somebody like that. And Sanjit is quite confident. Oh, well, you know, I've worked with people like that before. Not a problem. I might take control of the conversation or let him speak freely. I'll see how it goes. I'll also have Katie on call with me. So safety in numbers. He's not fazed by it particularly. And he knows here he might take one approach or the other. So we kind of establish this with the students before they watch option A video and option B video. And this is the beauty of business partner. This is what I love about it, because afterwards you talk to the students, you discuss it, you know, which approach did you prefer? Oh, Gary was very dominating in that one, but then he was quieter in the next one. So I wasn't sure if he said everything he wanted to communicate, and maybe that's not good for the company. So you have this kind of discussion, and the students, after they've done one of these, they get the idea, they pick up on it really quickly. And so, you know, it doesn't need so much setting up in class, because they already know, oh, okay, the two approaches, one's maybe right, one's wrong, maybe I prefer one or the other. Oh yeah, I'm always like that. Maybe I should reflect and change my method of communication and be kind of less direct, for example, when I'm working with certain sort of nationalities. So there's kind of quite a lot of cultural awareness as well that goes in with into these videos, and that comes out of the discussion afterwards on reflection. So he knows it's not going to be easy. So I'm just giving a little bit of a build up here in case you're not familiar with the way it works in lesson 3 in Business Partner. But here then we have option A. It's set out nice and clearly, black and white on the page or on the screen. Option A is to accept and adapt. So here Sanjit will allow other people in the meeting to communicate in their preferred way without intervening. Maybe they will go off tangent. He won't stick to the agenda because it will be open to discussion. Now, this is the kind of thing that often happens in Spain, for example, where I live and work. People won't stick to the agenda, or he will intervene and control and manage the way others communicate, interrupt, insist on following the agenda, focus on the relevant topics, propose solutions for a discussion. And you think, oh yes, well, that's much better. That's why I always teach my business English students, you know, follow the agenda. But does it happen in real life? This is the question. Yeah, so often we would like maybe to have meetings, ideal meetings in option B, which is what you see in lots of other course books. Of course, you know, in role plays that I've written or in dialogues I have written as well when I've been writing materials for classes. Or we're going to have something kind of a little bit more realistic, and, you know, to have people who don't always behave like they should in meetings. And this is an interesting thing for students to go, aha, yeah, well, recognize that. How can I deal with it? What strategies can I use? What language can I have? And think about when they might interrupt or not in order to be more directive in the meeting. Okay, so I think if it's time maybe to watch the video, this is what it looks like. If I can just move to the video there, just to come out of the screen here. Now remember, as a teacher, you're doing this online, and we would probably need to go back a few pages here. We were in B1 career choices, and I'm just to show you what the interface looks like. I'm just going to go back here. So this was the B1 level, and you've got all those lovely photographs indicating those 8 units: global markets, business sectors, communication. Okay, but that's B1. So we need to go out a little bit here to go back to the other projects that you will see. Nice to see you, well, nice to see you guys too. And we were there in B1, and if I scroll down, we're going to look here at B2. And as I was saying, remember, there are kind of 8 levels. So we had B1 plus, B2 is here with the the purple pages, and I'm going to the online tool here. Now you could just use, this is what the students get if they've had a workbook or the course book with their resources or the ebook, or if you're using the offline tool, but I'm showing you the online tool, okay? So this is the first option that we click on there, all right? And this should leave us, we should have time just to watch one more video. Okie dokie. And let me, so with Gary, you can see this corporate culture. These are all the different units that are here. Okay, and we would go into the unit there and choose the lesson. Now, just bear with me. I'm trying to find my way around and navigating. And as I said, exactly, I choose. Okay, for a brief moment there, I wasn't sure if I had the right place, but yes, Unit 4, Digital Business. The whole unit is about digital business. Here you can see an overview and the different lessons. Lesson 1, working on vocabulary, as I said. Lessons 4.2, that's the second lesson, working on grammar. And then we need the third lesson, the communication skills lesson, which is 4.3. And so we can go in, click on here in order to teach that lesson, which will be the lesson I've shown you. This is the overview. And this was the lead-in that we mentioned just there. And as you can see, this looks like the real sort of physical course book with the 2 pages here. And it's highlighted where there's a video to watch or an audio to listen to. And also there'll be extra resources. Actually, I do need to point that out where it says teachers resources here. There's further work. There's more things to choose from that are online and not actually in the course book, or that you can even download as a PDF. So here we have kind of our lesson flow with the videos to watch and discussion, which can take quite a while, quite a large part of the class. And then more functional work on functional language, rather, they're ending up with a communicative task based on the videos, right? So here I would need to click here in order to go into option A's. Just watch the videos here. Now the beauty of this is what we were discussing before, the idea of option A and option B. So let's watch this video and see what you think.
Hi.
Hi, Gary?
Yeah. Hi.
I'm here with Sanjit and Katie.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, Sanjit. Claire has filled me in, so there's no need for the hello, how are yous. Let's go through the branding document I sent you. It's really important you rethink the branding.
I actually had an agenda I thought we could stick to.
Can I go on?
Yes, your document. Okay, Gary, carry on.
As you'll see, I've proposed some changes. There's a load of ideas you should look at. Really good stuff, even if I say so myself. One key thing. I've done some detailed analysis of your potential customers. Interesting results. Very interesting. And so I've put together a few marketing ideas on page 23. Got that? Anyway, and I know you're not gonna like this, but you know the little product logo? The one with the sun you've gone for? Awful. Customers hate it. It simply has to be changed. Pronto.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. I will come to that. I'm also worried about the marketing budget. It's totally unrealistic. So I've created a new budget which, when you take a look at the...
Okay, but if we could focus back on the logo.
Just let me finish.
All right. Brand and marketing spend. Go on then.
Wow. So here we go. Right, let me just go back to the PowerPoint. Thank you. So there we've seen then, this was option A with Gary. Well, what do you think? that kind of guy, he just tells you as it is, doesn't he? Do you want to hear it? No, it's probably not what they want to hear. But is it helpful? Well, maybe it's actually quite useful for Gary to be pointing out all these problems before the project goes ahead. Maybe it's not the kind of guy we'd prefer to work with or like having a meeting with, but maybe he's telling some home truths. So the next then video, option B, your students watch that, and then they compare and discuss their ideas about those two approaches, which worked better, accepting and adapting the situation with Gary dominating and his ideas, or intervening, controlling, when maybe the problem there is that we don't hear what those criticisms are, the constructive criticisms are, and then maybe the project won't be so successful. So, and how does Sanjit deal with that? How would your students deal with that? How would you deal with that? And which is better? Okay, so lots of discussion there. And of course, as I said before, then they go on to do all the language work. Now, I realize we're running out of time. I do want to leave a little bit of time at the end for reflection, which is always very important. So we've been looking at those communication skills, focusing on some communication tasks. I'm afraid just a small sample there from Business Partner, but creating also awareness of this language of, what's employability, what is critical thinking, what kind of ways can I be creative and work that isn't necessarily artistic, but being creative in different ways, thinking outside the box, problem solving. Are the tasks that we do in class normally, especially business English classes and our professional classes, do they reflect realistic, real world tasks? Do they reflect the workplace as it is? Yeah. Or are we kind of doing tasks and model dialogues or model listenings, which are maybe not that useful for our students because they're kind of too far away from reality? So that's some things to think about. Are we helping our students with employability skills? Whether, it's my student Vicky, who is in her 50s, a very professional, very successful lawyer, but who happens to be unemployed now and needs help with improving her English, but also her employability skills. And are we, helping our students who are just finishing off their, graduate studies and going out into the real world of work and maybe having to change from what they studied to do a completely different job? Will they still be good at giving successful job interviews, being influential, being good at working in teams? And also the reflection, are we pausing and reflecting in class, but also about our own teaching as well? And assessment, of course, is probably another workshop for another time, but these are all good things to think about. Those are my sources and references from today. Also the Business Partner books, of course. You saw videos there from the B1 intermediate level, also B2 level. Remember, there are some videos that are more authentic at the beginning and some that are scripted for those communication skills. And you can learn more about employability skills and Pearson's research from some very kind of nice downloadable PDFs there from the website. Remember, there are 8 levels, 8 lessons in each level. And finally, talking about reflection, going back to my working holiday, I have been working, but also a change of scenery is often good for us, isn't it? Going out for a walk, reflecting. And I was reflecting at looking at the reflection of me in the window, looking at this beautiful little shop there in Victoria Street, Kilt Makers here in Edinburgh. So I just wanted to share that with you, but the idea of emphasize the idea of importance of reflection, reflecting with our students, reflecting how we're teaching, what we're teaching as well, what our students are learning, and how they can apply that in the workplace. And some thoughts for you to end this talk. At the end of the conference, it's Friday, but here are some things to think about. Maybe if not today, then over the weekend, over the next couple of weeks as you begin your courses. How would you define employability skills? What do you remember from the session today? How relevant are they? Or which ones are most relevant to your learners and your teaching context this year, this academic year? Which communicative tasks could you use? I've mentioned some of them, but maybe you have more ideas to develop them, whether it's in projects or in simulations, yeah, or doing interviews, doing research, and how will your feedback help your learners to further develop their transferable skills? So here we're not just giving feedback on language, are we? We're giving feedback on their skills as well, when they are performing in their role plays, when they're giving presentations, when they're practicing negotiations, for example, when they're giving each other feedback as well. So things to think about, and how can we try to make sure that our goals and tasks are clear, so why are we doing it, but also realistic and achievable for learners as well. Okay, so those are some questions I'd like to leave you with. Thank you very much for listening to me.